What is physician wellness? How do morning and evening rituals help with burnout? What is the cost of being a leader? Learn the answers to these questions and many more on this episode of the Talk2MeDoc podcast.
Welcome to the Talk2MeDoc podcast, where it's all about serving the early career physician. Let's talk about the unique issues that face us so we can create a better future for ourselves and those to come. And now your host, Dr. Andrew Tisser.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Talk2MeDoc podcast. For our returning listeners, thank you so much. For my new listeners, welcome to the show. You know you're in the right place because today, like on every episode, I'm bringing you the best guests from all over healthcare and beyond to discuss the issues relating to the early career physician. Today's episode is a real treat. Dr. Harry Karydes is an emergency physician, medical toxicologist, and medical director who practices in the Chicagoland area. He understands the issues that physicians face every day. Stress, lack of motivation, and mental fatigue have become commonplace in medicine. For years, he struggled to keep things balanced while growing at work and thriving at home, and his success came at the expense of his health and family. He realized that he was beginning to experience burnout. He also saw colleagues and friends endure with his silent struggle. Something needed to change. Much has been written on the strides we have made towards patient well-being and quality of life, yet there's little written on physician wellness, and are even fewer resources for the struggling physician. Dr. Karydes has crafted habits that focus on reaching personal and professional goals without sacrificing one for the other. As a writer and national speaker who has a passion for physician wellness, he helps overwhelmed physicians, residents, and medical students to live a life of focus and balance. His mission is to give you the courage and tools to learn, grow, and thrive in the important areas of your life. Well, without further ado, let's bring Dr. Harry Karydes onto the show. Dr. Harry Karydes, welcome to the Talk2MeDoc podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Me as well. So I recorded a little bit of your bio for the listeners, but in your own words, could you give us a little bit about who you are and what you do and your role in healthcare?
Sure. Thank you again. So my name, as Andrew said, is Harry Karydes. I'm an emergency physician here in the Midwest, as well as a medical toxicologist. I've been doing this for well over a decade. And I'm also the medical director of my department too. And one of the things that I've learned is, as I've been going through it, and Andrew, we could talk about this if you wish, is, several years ago, I had a very specific event that I had gone through after a pediatric cardiac arrest that ended in a death that I was really struggling with. I think many of us are struggling with it, which is that of burnout, be it if you're a physician or if you're a nurse or if you're a paramedic, if you're listening to this. I was struggling with it, and I was looking for some resources to help me get through just through my day, because I still had to work my entire shift. I still had to work the next day, and I was looking for really some resources, and I really couldn't find any actual resource that I could use. So that's when I started writing and blogging about it on my blog and podcast, Medicine Revived. And I'll leave it at that, Andrew, and I'll let you see where else you want to go with that. If you want me to expand on it, I'm happy to do so.
Sure. Yeah, I think, for those emergency medicine is a unique field, is that, that you and I know is that we see, a lot of very mundane nonsense. And then every once in a while you get just that one case that hits you the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And I know a few people that pediatric deaths have actually ended their careers in emergency medicine.
Yeah.
Because it's just, especially those people that have children of their own, I think it's just such a very, uncommon thing to see, and, you're trained for it, but it really affects people in a terrible way.
It wasn't necessary. I would say, if you're in emergency medicine, as you are, Andrew, and many of our listeners maybe, this wasn't my first pediatric death. If you've been in emergency medicine for some time, you've encountered a pediatric death. Unfortunately, the horrible scenario of a pediatric death. But what happened, I think, for me, that really kind of struck me is it was one of my first patients I had seen of the day, and I think it was just a whole sequence of events. I remember coming in; it was a 6 a.m. shift. And I remember coming in, and you can tell how the night was by looking at the eyes of the night doctor who was coming off shift. He was just exhausted, mentally and physically. Had a rough night. So we exchanged some pleasantries, and I started seeing my patients, and I had seen 6 patients already, which is a good clip for, a 6 a.m. shift
Yeah.
in most emergency departments. And what I remember very much specifically about that day is I remember leaving a patient room, and he had, sustained a pretty large thumb laceration. He worked at a factory across the street from us at the hospital. And I remember leaving that room with my head down because I remember saying to myself, oh my gosh, I've seen so many patients already. And I know this lac is going to take me some time to take some time to repair it. And all I can remember, and I can still see it, it was room number 20. I can see my chargers just running from triage to our resus bay with a child, a 3-month-old child who I can see from even 20 feet away. That child was blue. So the great thing about emergency medicine is we are a team. So we got to the business of work, and we tried to resuscitate that child, and that child unfortunately didn't make it. But really what the burnout for me, I think, happened, or at least the light bulb moment for me, was I remember sitting down at my desk, and on our tracking board, there had been 8 patients, Andrew, who had signed in during that resuscitation.
Oh my God.
And my first thought, Andrew, was, oh my goodness, how am I going to see all these patients and chart on them? That was my first thought, Andrew. I didn't even have a time to grieve with the mother, to grieve with my nurses. I had no time for myself. My focus was churning through patients and seeing the next patient. And I said to myself, that is wrong. That is absolutely wrong, and something needed to change. I was just so taken aback by that moment that I knew something needed to happen. So,
well, it's crazy that your brain goes there, right? I mean, right. As someone outside of medicine would be like, oh my God, all he's thinking about is just writing notes, but that's not, it's how we're wired. And it's crazy. That's where you go, and you just don't, you got to just go to the next room, right? To the next chart.
I think what maybe even compounded it even a little bit worse for me, because it was again early in the morning. It was at 7 a.m. at this time, is I still had a full shift to do. And I really was I went through the shift. I did it fine. But I think, Andrew, what happened also is I came home, and I have a lovely, beautiful wife and 2 lovely children. And I remember for such a huge event, you would think many people would want to share that with their spouse. But I also thought, man, I don't want to burden them. I don't want to burden them at all with what my day was, which is, again, another red flag. And, at that time, my wife and I, we have 2 children. So one would put one child to bed, and I'll put the other child to bed. And I put my little boy to bed. And I remember sitting in my office, typing the word physician burnout in Google. And I remember saying to myself, my God, Harry, this is it. You don't need Google to help you with this. You are experiencing it. You're in this dark office by yourself with the wife and 2 children upstairs, and you're Googling the word physician burnout. And what I found was just heartbreaking. I had nothing else to look for. And I went to Google when I have a wife who loves me and I love her, that I could even go to. And I needed something else that I needed to change. And, as they say in a lot of things, you have to scratch your own itch. And that's when I started writing and blogging about it.
Yeah, such a great, luckily over the last few years, we've started to see more people talk about it and more people explore it. But I still think it's inadequate, what's out there. But, physician wellness is really just yoga and resilience training, right?
Right. And that's exactly what I'm pushing against. And I think part of it is because we don't know what the next step is. So it's almost like we're going to throw something at something and see if it sticks. And what I can tell you is as physicians is we're not interested in yoga. We're not interested in steak dinners. We're not interested in pizza dinners. We want something that we can use today, that we could put into practice today. We need a set of habits. We need a set of rituals that will help you thrive. And that's really what I want. I want people to thrive in medicine. I'm trying to prevent you from even getting to the stage of burnout. I'm trying to help you achieve a wellness that you've envisioned for yourself. If you're saying to yourself, this isn't what I thought about, that's where we have to stop and say, well, what is it that will get you to where you want? Because I feel, Andrew, I think many of us still love the medicine. I do. I still love the medicine. The system is what's maybe bogging us down. And I'm trying to keep people in medicine, perhaps, because the field is such a wonderful field. but I think we just need some very specific things to get us there because we're not taught it. We're just taught the medicine in medical school, and we're just kind of like, okay, go. And then there's also there's a lot of ego in medicine, whereas, if you can't handle it, you're not tough enough. And I've been pushing back on that for the past several years on my writings. It's not a strongman competition. We want healthy doctors to take care of patients because that's the only way we're going to do well in medicine is if we're well.
I agree completely. I mean, I think, and some of my work with my clients in the young physician realm is to keep them in medicine because we are seeing an exodus across not only mid and late career docs, but we're seeing early career docs that get out of residency and are looking for an escape plan. And then who's going to take care of me and you when we're old and there's no docs left, right?
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned it. And actually, I was working at one of my moonlighting spots yesterday. And at that moonlighting, at that department, we have medicine residents from two different hospitals, two different academic hospitals. And he had come into a shift. And the first question I always ask them, the medicine resident, is, what are you going to do with yourself when you're done? And it's usually the same thing. I'm going to do cardiology, I'm going to do gastro, hemonc. But this one said to me, I'm thinking about maybe cardiology, but quite honestly, I'm probably just going to leave medicine. This is a third-year medicine resident who hasn't even stepped foot as an attending yet. And I go to him, and actually referred him to you, Andrew. But this is a third-year medicine resident who I go, what are you going to do with yourself? He's like, well, I'm going to probably do consulting. I'm like, you have not even tasted medicine as an attending. And that's not being disrespectful. Please understand that's not being disrespectful. But there are different stressors when you are on your own as a solo attending. And he's already feeling the effects of burnout. And we're seeing it for sure. And I was just so taken aback. A part of me was saddened that he's leaving this wonderful field. And he comes from a wonderful academic institution. But I'm also, on one aspect, almost kind of happy that he's kind of realized that maybe this isn't for me right now. And if he's leaving medicine because turns out this wasn't what he wanted to do, that's fine. But I think many people are leaving medicine just because they just don't know where to look for help.
They feel trapped. That's
Absolutely.
what it is,
Absolutely.
People leave. I agree. I mean, my philosophy in life is always to run towards something and not away, right? So
You're 100% right.
if you have a great interest in the pharmaceutical industry and you want to do great things there and you decide to leave medicine for a career in pharma because you love it, great, sure. I'm for you. But if you're doing it because you don't know what else to do or you want to be a consultant or all the other number of things you can do because you feel trapped and stuck in the system, now that's something we can dig into,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So you mentioned rituals. What does that mean? What are rituals and how do they help us with our wellness?
So I have, and this is like one of the things that I've taken from some of the greatest leaders. We talked a little bit offline before we started, but shortly after I had my that pediatric death, maybe about a month or so after that, I was asked to become the medical director for our ED, which I did. I became the medical director for ED, and there are a lot of rituals that leaders do. Great leaders, the Steve Jobs, the Zuckerbergs, the Elon Musks, that they do every single day. And you have to say to yourself, these guys are running billion-dollar companies. And what is it that they do every day? And I became a student of that. I became a student of, what are great leaders doing? And one thing that is consistent is they all have rituals. So I try to incorporate rituals in my day. And this is what I talk about with my audience, is I have a morning and an evening ritual. It's called the arise ritual and a sleep ritual, because sometimes my sleep is at 8 a.m. when I come off of a night shift. But I bookend my days, Andrew, with these rituals. And I defend those fiercely. It's always the same for me. And as an example, I can give you what happened to me this morning. I got up early. I'm an early bird. I know not many of you guys are, but I get up early. And first thing I do, and it's always the same. It's always the same. I think that's the important thing for all of us to do, is you have a set of things that you bookend your day with, and it has to be the same. And it's a way to start your day and close your day. But for me, I rise. I do a quick little prayer. As soon as my 2 feet hit the ground, I have a little gratitude that I do. I do a quick affirmation, and I take a big glass of water, and then I take a deep breath in. That takes 30 seconds, a minute. And then I read 10 pages, and it's something that I usually try to read as something about leadership. So I usually do my first 10 pages of the day, and then I get a workout in. Why? Because if I don't get my workout in the morning, I'm not going to get it done because I always start my day. My evening is the same thing. Essentially, I do my evening ritual, which is I read, and I usually read something from a nonfiction, something that I think would just open my mind as I go to bed and lay down my head. I do my prayers, and I read. I speak with my wife, and I do some breathing exercises. It's the same. It's the same always. And that's why I've bookended my day. And that I can tell you has been one of the most important things that helps me achieve a set of wellness. I control my day, Andrew, and that's what I want all of us to. I want each of us to control our day. I think one of the big game changers for me, and this isn't really a ritual, but it's a little tip, is the phone is not beside me. The phone is in our bathroom. I put it loud enough because if somebody needs to get a hold of me at 2 a.m. for some administrative thing, I can hear the phone. But I don't keep the phone by me because reflexively, many of us will just reach for the phone and see what emails had come in or what texts have come in or what's going on in Facebook. That's the absolute worst thing we can do for ourselves. So I put my phone away in the bathroom, and I don't look at it for the first hour of the day. I don't even look at my phone. In fact, I go work out. I have another little radio downstairs, and I listen to it there. But I don't listen to anything. I don't look at my phone because I'm in charge of my day.
Yeah, those are great tips. I mean, I'm an early riser myself, and I personally, I get up, I write my goals down. I'm a big goal writing person, especially. I like to write them down in the present sense, as though I've achieved X, Y, Z. Helps me with visualization, but I agree. I like getting up early and getting ahead of my day rather than the alternative. Sometimes it's hard when you're on a string of nights, but yeah, you know how it is.
I do know, but I'm also a fan of journaling. It's part of my morning and evening ritual too. And I can tell you, I think many of us fear journaling. I think many of us, especially as physicians, because a lot of us are, they think it's a bit woo or it's not black and white, it's not concrete. I think many of us in healthcare struggle with that, but that has been significant for me. And what I always tell people is give it a try. And instead of buying a journal with where you'll be looking at a blank page, there's a journal called the 5-Minute Journal. You can get it on Amazon. I believe it's $28, $29. And it's just that. It's a 5-minute journal. It gives you the writing prompts. And it's, 2 writing prompts in the morning and 3 writing prompts in the evening. And the journal only gives you 2 lines to write. And it just gets you in the habit of journaling and of writing. And that's what I always recommend to that I work with, physicians and nurses that I've been working with, is buy yourself a 5-minute journal and just get yourself in the habit. Again, it's all about habits. You give yourself the habit of journaling. And I always kid about is with some of the people that I work with, I always kid about is I have no idea how this company makes money. Because why I say this, because after you do the journal will last you 3 months. After that 3 months, I can't imagine anybody else buying it again because you have found the value of journaling and you're going to probably end up buying just a blank journal. I don't know how many repeat buyers they have for the 5-minute journal because it's such a powerful tool that I found I've used, but now I've just used the regular blank journal now.
Yeah, that's great. I got to check that out. I didn't even know about that, but I recommend that to some people. So we're talking about rituals, and how do you think that these rituals, how do we tie this back into burnout, right? How does this help people? How is this an actionable step to help with the stressors of the day and the job?
So specific for us in medicine is many of us don't know what our day is going to be. As emergency physicians, one of the things that I was drawn to emergency medicine is I never ever wanted somebody to tell me, Dr. Karydes, your 2:00 patient is here. That's just not me. That doesn't fit my personality. And that's what drew me into emergency medicine is I have no idea what my day is going to be like. It could be a wonderful day where, I'm on all cylinders, or it could be just a horribly miserable day that I had, several years ago. So what is one thing that I can control? And that is the thing of rituals. If I control my habits, I control what I do start of my day and the end of the day and at the time where I'm not working. That has been so powerful for me because what happens in as physicians or nurses who are in burnout is their entire day is like one ED shift. They're going from one thing to the other with no purpose. And then you ask them, well, what are you working on right now? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And they look at you like a deer in headlights because they haven't sat down and plotted this out for themselves. And that's what happens. We just keep going year after year after year, doing the exact same thing. And you're about 5 years into your specialty, 10 years into your specialty, 20 years into your specialty, and you're doing the exact same thing you did 20 years ago. And you're not growing. Then you're wondering, well, why am I struggling with this? Why am I so miserable in this field of medicine? And it's not that. It's because you've not taken the steps to get yourself on a path that you want to be on. One of the things that I talk about on my website, on my podcast is I want you to be able to create a curriculum for yourself. What does wellness mean to you? Because my visions and goals are likely different than your visions and goals, but we can use a lot of the same tools to get us there. How do you create that vision for yourself? And that's the key. You control the things that you can control. And when we're in medicine, there are things that we just can't control. So why do we let that bleed into our personal lives? And that's what I'm trying to overcome.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think it's so important. There's so many people when I start talking to them or some of the people I work with one-on-one, and I ask them, just a simple question: what is it that you want? What do you want your life to look like? And the amount of people that are just like, well, I have no idea. And that's, well, think about it. Where do you want to be in 5 years? I don't know, but I don't like this.
You said it perfectly. You absolutely said it perfectly. I think, and part of it is the way we're trained is we look at, graduation of medical school. We look at successfully completing your residency as the goal. And you let out a big exhale, like, okay, done. I've done it. I finished residency and then I'm done. And what it is that's only just the beginning. You were very intentional when you were in medical school. You had a very specific schedule. I go to class this time. I study these hours. This is my path to passing that exam, for example. Same thing with residency. This is my path. This is how I'm going to succeed in this particular rotation, be it studying, be it working on a specific procedure, staying after. A very specific set of things that we did get us to that next level. But once we reach that next level, the final thing, which is that of an attending, we kind of let out a big exhale, like, okay, we're done now. And we lose those things. And I think that's what contributes to a lot of the burnout that we're seeing now.
I agree. I've said it on the show before. When I got done, my whole thing was like, when I'm done with residency, I'm going to be so happy. It's finally going to be over. And then, we were done, and I followed my wife to Chicago, and I had, I was working at like 5 different hospitals, and I was miserable.
Right.
And I thought, well, it's always what's next, but now this is just it. And that's, part of my own burnout struggles and getting through it and finding all the other things that I love to do. But, it really is, I think, when you have such structure in your life for 11, 12, 15 years, and then it's just, this is it. Right.
Yep. And that's what, both you and I are trying to do. We're trying to create some structure in our professionals, our physicians and our nurses. We're trying to create some structure for them. And that's what's needed. We need some structure to help you reach that next level. And again, you want, for me, I knew I wanted to continue to grow. But for some people, they may, I just want to work as a physician. I don't want to, I don't want to grow administratively. I still love, doing full-time work. I don't want to do any kind of side work. I just want to be at this hospital, this clinic for the rest of my life. If that's what it is, fantastic. I wish you nothing but success, but you still need some specific things, some specific rituals, some specific goals that get you to your next level. If you have professional goals, which I doubt, I highly doubt, that's not how we're wired, but have personal goals. Where do you, if you're married, what are your goals for you and your significant other? How are you a better mother? How are you a better father? How are you a better husband? Those things, you need goals to attain to. You have to always strive for more. I think that is not more work. I think that's where I think many of us get this in our heads. Well, that's just more work. It's completely opposite. If you put in the time, you will actually create less work and more happiness down your years.
Exactly. That's why I'm so goal focused myself, and with my clients is just, you need to be striving towards something, and that doesn't have to be at work. But I do administrative work myself, and I enjoy it. But I know a lot of people that would rather be chewing on broken glass than be sitting in a
Mm,
boardroom, which is perfectly fine.
yeah,
But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the administrative work. Some people may hear this and say, okay, well, you took on another job, more responsibility with your leadership role, and doesn't that just worsen your burnout because you're just getting hit with more things and getting called at 2 a.m. or what have you?
sure. So, does it cause more work? No, and I'll tell you why. One of the things that I realize is when there's this thing, this Parkinson's law, right? You'll fill up your time with the amount given to you. Now knowing that I have this additional role, I have to be even more intentional about how I spend my day. So what I did, I just did this yesterday. I worked yesterday, but in the evening I was off. We do this every single week with my wife. My wife and I, we sit down and we plot out, we print out our Google calendars, just 1 week, not a month, just 1 week. And we go through it hour by hour on what my week looks like, what her week looks like. And we schedule time. This is your time to work out. This is the time we're going to spend with, the children. This is the time we're going to go with each other. We have our date nights as well, too. So we have, I do what's called, front of the house and back of the house, meaning when I'm at front of the house, that's my clinical. It's just kind of like a play. That's my clinical duties, my administrative duties that I have to be at campus for. But the back of the house, where actually most business happens, is behind the scenes. I schedule that out. So if I know that I'm going to be, working a clinical shift tomorrow, for example, an 8-hour clinical shift, well, then I know I'm going to have to adjust my morning ritual, right? Because I may get a full workout in, I may be able to get my workout in later in the evening, or I do a shorter work. So what I'm saying is you have to sit down with your significant other and plot out your day hour by hour. And it's going to be clunky for many of you guys at first. It'll be clunky for you because it's going to take, maybe about 45 minutes. But we did ours in 10 minutes flat, right? Because we've done it so many times. We've done it so many weeks. So she knows that, okay, I've got these meetings over this next week. And I've been doing this for several years now, so I kind of know what meetings pop up regularly. And it doesn't cause me any more work because I've prepared for them. I'm looking forward to them. I've prepared for them. So if that is something that some of your listeners want to do, is that of administration, I highly, highly encourage it for you for two reasons. Why? It's not that much work, is if you're intentional about it. And number two, you're now in a position where you could actually help. So I can easily tell you that being the medical director of my department, I've been able to help many, many, many more people, not only in my emergency department, in the hospital, and regionally and nationally, because of this particular role that I have. I'm the wellness chairman of my hospital as well, too. So that I sought that out. Because I knew that in this position that I have, I can help more. So that's another thing for your young listeners is don't think of administration as more work. Think of it as the opportunity to serve more, which is what we're here for. And it absolutely has helped me with my burnout. I can even tell you that, I can attest that is because I have this leadership role, I know I can reach more people, and I know I can, and that brings me joy. That brings me satisfaction. That helps achieve my goals, is to be able to help people. And that's my small contribution to my medical community.
I agree. Yeah, I'm an urgent care director for my system, and whereas yes, there are meetings to go to, and there are other things you got to do in the day. It brings me more fulfillment on the clinical side. So, and I get to take care of my people, the way I would want to be taken care of.
Yeah.
So, so I agree. I think if you have any interest in it, there are not many physicians in your hospital that do. So seek out the powers that be and ask to get involved, even if it's just getting on a committee to see if you like it.
And they will seek you out. Again, you don't necessarily need the title. We've seen it, right? In your own ED group, I'm sure there are some just leaders who give more, want to do more, and be that person. Be the person that gives more. There's a great book by Seth Godin called Lynchpin. I highly recommend everybody listening to this buy that book from Amazon. It's called Lynchpin. But it's just being that, right? Be the linchpin that holds people together. Be indispensable. And you may be saying to yourself, well, Harry, that's going to be so much work. It's actually not. It's actually not. It's counterintuitive, but it's not. Offering more for yourself will not only bring job satisfaction for you, occupational wellness for you, but it just breeds emotional wellness. It just breeds intellectual wellness. There's just so many things, so many perks of being a leader. And again, you don't necessarily need the title. We are all leaders. We all have opportunities to lead your group of people that you are leading. And take advantage of that. Take advantage of that and be that leader. You don't necessarily need the title. If you have the title, great. Use it to the best of your abilities. But if you're brand new out of residency, don't wait for that opportunity. Make that opportunity.
I agree. Yeah. It's like the So Good You Can't Ignore You. Who was that? Cal Newport, I believe.
Yep. I believe
that's
you're
another great book. But yeah, I think that's great advice is to just, to give value, right? I mean, that's both, doing the podcast and your blog, people may come at you and say, well, you're giving all this away for free, but yes, you're making a difference in the world. You're helping your fellow physician and you're giving value, and that pays dividends down the road as well.
Yeah. It's therapeutic for me too. If we call it what it is, it's therapeutic for me too. I enjoy doing it, and it helps me. It brings me joy. It brings me happiness, and that helps me toward my wellness too. And I think it's a win-win for everyone.
I agree. Well, let's shift the show a little bit just to get to know you a little bit better. So Harry, besides all of your other pursuits, what do you like to do for fun?
Well, I do. I'm a couple of things. One of the things that I absolutely love doing is I love reading. I absolutely love reading, and I love cooking with the family. Those are my two main ones. I absolutely love doing. I recently started cycling quite a bit, and it's been beautiful. It's beautiful for us here in the Chicagoland area. So I've been bicycling quite a bit. That's the other thing I actually do every single day. And one thing that I kind of do, and it's my almost my obsession, my wife would call it, is I really enjoy the hobby of saltwater fish. I've got a 40-gallon tank down here in my office, and then I have a bigger one downstairs. And it fulfills things that I enjoy. I love the science. I love the chemistry of saltwater fishing, growing corals and saltwater fish. But it just provides me a sense of satisfaction. I tell my wife I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't ride motorcycles. It's the one thing that I do because it does become a money pit at sometimes. But it's one thing that I do enjoy and I spend some time with.
That's great. Yeah, Chicago summers. My wife and I certainly miss them. They were they were great.
Yeah.
So, and you love to read. You already gave us a book recommendation. Do you have any other book recommendations for the listeners?
Oh, I've got dozens of them. I think for your listeners, Good to Great is another one. Grit by Angela Duckworth. That's another one. I read that a couple times a year. For your younger listeners, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dale Carnegie is a must read. And the other one is The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. That's, I think, a good start for somebody who's just starting to enter this world, especially if you're just starting into medicine. I think those would be my recommendations for your listeners.
Those are all fantastic. I agree with every one of those recommendations. So if you could give the early career physician just a single piece of advice besides everything we've already talked about today, what would that be?
My advice would be that the medicine that you've chosen is an absolutely wonderful, wonderful field. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Yes, there are going to be days that are going to be hard. There are going to be days where you're going to go home just so sad and crying, but it's a wonderful, wonderful field. But you have to be responsible for your wellness. No one's going to give that to you. No one's going to show you, okay, now take this pill and you're going to be well. You have to be intentional and purposeful with your actions every single day. There's a place for conferences. There's a place for webinars, but taking action today, having habits today are what's going to help lead you to have a long and thriving and wonderful and satisfying career.
Well said. Well said, Harry. So if people want to learn more about you and what you do and your writings, where can they find you?
Thanks, Andrew. Well, I've created a free 3-video series for your listeners, and it helps you get started on that road to wellness. As I've said earlier, I want you and your listeners to be able to build your curriculum for wellness. So what I've done, if you're listening to this on the phone and not driving, you can text the word 3 videos, the number 3, the numeral 3 videos, all one word, 3 videos, to 44222. And that's 44222. Text the word 3 videos, and we'll get you started on those 3 videos to get you started on how to build those habits, how to build momentum, how to write your goals down. And that's a great way to get started. I'm also found on the major social media networks. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram with the same handle, Medicine Revived. And one thing I wanted to share with you, Andrew, is I have a private Facebook group, because what I found is community is so important, to surround ourselves with like-minded people who want to look for those things that get you to that next level, be it intellectually, financially, emotionally, spiritually. You just need a group of people, a community of like-minded people. And I've created a Facebook group that I invite all of your listeners to be on. It's under the same thing, Medicine Revived. It's under the groups tab. It's called Medicine Revived. And go ahead, please join the group, join the community of like-minded physicians who can surround you with the support that you need. And it's been something I've been really focusing a lot of my attention toward lately.
Wonderful. All those links will be in the show notes for the listeners. Yeah, join up Medicine Revived. I'm a member. There's some great people in there to get the conversation going. Well, Harry, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for coming on the show and offering your insight.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And again, if there's anything else that you or your listeners need, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be in touch.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. Have a great one.
What a great episode with Dr. Harry Karydes. It's really great to see other physicians trying to combat burnout and keep people in medicine. We share a lot of the same viewpoints in regards to goal setting and professional growth. I really like the part where Harry spoke about his rituals, both morning and evening, as well as journaling, in order to help take control of your day when sometimes you don't have control of your job. I also enjoyed the part where he discussed working towards professional and personal growth, not necessarily adding more work, but adding more fulfillment to your life. Well, that's all we have for today. Thank you again for listening. Please leave me an honest rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps get the show out there. Additionally, if you want any direct help from myself, please email me at andrew@talk2medocpod.com. That's andrew@talk2medocpod.com. If you like this show, please share it with your friends and colleagues. Until next time, guys, keep talking. All opinions expressed by the guest in this episode are solely the guest's opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Andrew Tisser DO, Talk2MeDoc LLC, or any affiliates thereof. The guest's opinions are based upon information he or she considers reliable, but Andrew Tisser DO, Talk2MeDoc LLC, nor any affiliates thereof warrant its completeness or accuracy. The guest, Andrew Tisser DO, Talk2MeDoc LLC, or any affiliates thereof are not under any obligation to update or correct any information provided in this episode. The guest statements and opinions are subject to change without notice.